to China. Times Now gets you the chronicles of courage of Indian soldiers who thwarted China's twin expansionist plans on 9th December. We are the only channel which will reveal blow by blow, bit by bit, details of how our braves gave the People Liberation Army a bloody nose at Tawan. Top army sources at the border have told Times Now how the Chinese were not just bashed black and blue, but were also chased and some of them even captured. Yes, some of them were captured by our soldiers. Defeated and pushed back, we reveal to you how a desperate Chinese army fired in the air while they were restrained by our braves. This is the story that has not been told so far. Retreating PLA fired in the air in frustration. Let's go over this inside track that we have for you viewers. Here it is. Point number 1. India tracked PLA troops and vehicles to the build-up in December. We were not caught napping. This is India of 2022, not 1962. India forewarned and had reinforcements ready at the line of actual control. The Chinese failed to get past Indian deployment, which is why they were rattled after pelting stones. The Chinese forces were thrashed and trounced. Some of them were even captured after they were bashed black and blue. Let's open this up quickly. Srinjoy Chaudhary joining us, Editor-in-Chief, Rahul Shivshankar also on the broadcast. Rahul, this isn't the India of 1962.
Well, details that have been supplied to us now through our sources via Srinjoy Chaudhary, our National Affairs Editor, seem to suggest that this time India was fully aware of Chinese designs and was extremely vigilant. And even though there was an attempt by the Chinese to transgress, like they were trying to, of course, do in Galwan, we caught them out, we stole them, and we gave it back to them in a manner that they will remember for a while. Now, let me weave in Srinjoy into this conversation. Srinjoy, of course, there are a number of individuals who are coming out with different versions of what really transpired, but these versions are differing only because certain top army commanders are getting their information from their own individual sources. But viewers, after having spoken to individuals very close to the action on the ground, we have been able to piece together this very comprehensive picture, this chronicle of courage, so to speak. And what we can tell you is that there were two very significant things that happened. Number one, that the Indian forces harried the Chinese to such an extent that they became extremely frustrated and at one time even tried to fire in the air. Now, whether the firing actually took place or whether there was an attempt to try and warn Indian soldiers off, I can't tell you exactly, but fundamentally, viewers, what we do know is that the Chinese were completely taken aback by this push, and this push came back, or this pushback came on the back of extreme preparedness. So we had been tracking Chinese movements in this particular area for a while now, and therefore we knew exactly what the Chinese were going to do and where they were going to do. So any question of them trying to transgress and occupy like they did a few years ago, land in Doklam and other spaces, was not going to happen this time. The Indian forces were prepared. They had done their reconnaissance missions. They had been observing Chinese positions, and they retaliated in kind. More importantly, viewers, and this is really fundamental to the entire conversation we are having, what we also now realize is that the Chinese were angling for some kind of fight with the Indians, and they had been amassing troops on their side of the LAC, or what is the perceived LAC, for a while now. Why was this the case? Was this the case because China has been shaken and she's iron grip on the country is loosening? Is it because the Chinese economy is tanking and people are feeling the hardship and therefore a distraction was in order? Was it because India has now gone ahead and acquired the G20 presidency, and this status upgrade for India in the wider community of leading nations is upsetting China, and they want to derail the Indian growth story by embroiling India in some sort of border fracas where we will end up obviously putting more and more resources which would be required for our development into trying to buffer not just the border region but also bolster our preparedness by investing in resources. And this is what we have been doing significantly over the last 8-9 years, viewers. We have been on a very aggressive build-up of our facilities, military facilities at the border, so as to try and anticipate any advances by the Chinese. So, Pranesh, this is the larger picture. The Indian army, the Indian forces, all the wings today are very aware of what they need to do to actually thwart any Chinese advance. They're on top of the game. Their intelligence down to their dissemination of and deployment rather and dissemination of information through the ranks is top notch. And fundamentally the Chinese have come away feeling extremely shocked. In fact, there's news breaking where the Chinese mouthpiece has begun to quote top military leaders in China to suggest that the Indian forces need to actually control themselves. Now, what does this mean? What does this mean fundamentally? That they have been rattled by India's belligerence, this newfound belligerence, this newfound aggression, this newfound freedom, confidence to hit back has rattled the Chinese, and they are saying, well, India must manage its frontline troops better, quoting top military officials in the Chinese PLA. Clearly, viewers, India decided, and there is talk of this, that India might have even crossed the LAC and gone across to ensure that they were literally pushing back the Chinese further than the Chinese had anticipated before, obviously crossing back to our own side, which is something that India may not have done in the past. But there is clearly, after Galwan, and because India has galvanized its economy and recovered from COVID so very quickly, there is a newfound confidence, not just in the political establishment, but this has trickled down to our military establishment, to the point where the military feels that even if they push back, leading to a minor escalation, India's economy will be able to absorb any such short-term shock. So that